Imagine if you looked out across all the departments and teams in your organization and noticed every single team was passionately focused on their outcomes, working in sync and enjoying it. Now imagine if innovation was such a natural byproduct of your team culture that you were the envy of your competitors. Well, the secret may be closer than you realize. A recent Gallup study found that leadership accounts for almost 70% of employee engagement variance in businesses. Now, another Gallup study found that just one segment of unengaged workers cost the U.S. economy $500 billion per year, which is a direct result of poor leadership. Dr. Karen Wilson Stark's #1 best-selling author, executive leadership development consultant, and clinical psychologist understands the power of effective leadership. A former Army officer, she's trained high-level executives in corporate settings, the U.S. military, the federal government, and major nonprofits in how to make progress and get things done through people. Her 30-plus years of experience in corporate, federal government, U.S. military, and major nonprofits gives her a unique perspective. She can see where best practices in one field cross over perfectly, while her clinical psychology doctorate means she has X-ray vision into what drives and motivates people, the leaders and the followers, so the organization attracts and retains the best people who get the job done and get results. Let's meet Dr. Wilson Starks now. Welcome to the show, Karen. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here with you.
All right. So I want to know how you developed your skills and your passion for helping high-level executives take their leadership skills to a higher level.
Well, first let me say it started a little bit in childhood because I'm really the oldest of 4 children, and I've been leading from the cradle all along. But in reality, as far as in the work setting, when I was an Army officer, that's when it really started. Because not only was I responsible for the mental health conditions of soldiers, we also had to pay a lot of attention to leadership, the impact of leadership, and what was happening to people. I also observed that there was good leadership that led to effective results, and then ineffective leadership, which really wasted a lot of time and a lot of energy and demoralized people. So I saw both. And I said at that time, one day, I'd really like to do the business application of psychology and affect leadership.
Very nice. So why don't you share an example of how you've helped a client change their business culture by changing how they lead?
I have one client, his name is Steve, and Steve is actually the president of a manufacturing company. And when I met him, he was highly stressed and he was overworked, and his workforce was also highly stressed and overworked. They were growing at a very rapid pace. They were trying to scale the business and get to the next level. And in the midst of all of this, quality was slipping a little bit, and there was a lack of attention to important details for the business. So my client thought that the reason all of this was going on is his people just didn't care about quality and didn't care about work. And so he started complaining about them, and he was giving them negative messages. Now, the more he gave them negative messages, the worse things got, because they said, well, we can't please him anyway, so what's the point? So when I got in there, I realized this has nothing to do with his people. His people were very dedicated, very motivated. Some had been with him for 25 and 30 years. They knew their jobs. They were just overworked. They were already working 6 and 7 days a week. They were already working long hours. They couldn't do more. They really couldn't do more. So we started looking at other issues in the business, systems, structures, personnel, and he really needed a high-level right-hand person. So we brought in a chief operating officer to start with, started helping him to work on some of those systems and change the negative messaging.
Nice. And what ended up happening at that point? I mean, how long did it take until they started seeing some big results?
Well, they started seeing some results right away in this sense, because the president had been saying for years, things are going to get better. We're not going to always have to work this hard, and every year they would continue to have to work this hard. So I think when the workforce saw him really get serious about recruiting and actually bring in that new hire, and then we started integrating him into the company and started doing all that work, I think that's signaled hope. They said things really are going to change.
Great. That's what they needed, is a symbol just as much as anything else as well.
Absolutely.
So now you've also been able to use your coaching and consulting to open some doors to systemic change too. Can you share a story? I know you've got Dr. Charles.
Oh, yes. Dr. Charles is he's a high-level administrative leader in an academic setting. And when I first met him, he had just been promoted to the role, and he wasn't even sure he was the right person or the right fit. So one of the first things we really had to do was address that. I had to help him see that he really had exactly what the organization needed at this time. And he was going into an organization that was demoralized. They had had poor leadership in the past. In the whole university system, they were not necessarily at the top of the list as great places to work. And they were lacking in innovation. So what we did is we took a look at all of those issues and helped him to think about how he could lead in a very innovative way and from a visionary perspective, which he started doing. And the kind of results he got, people said, for the first time in a long time, we are really proud to work here. And he started getting feedback from people outside of the organization who said, how can we join? You're part of the operation. They also grew and they became profitable during the recession. And unlike similar university systems, they actually did not have to cut any salaries during the recession. They didn't cut any faculty. They continued to move and grow. And they established some new international partnerships during that time.
And the big story that I'm hearing is the fact that they didn't sit around and blame the economy for the problems. They did something about it and still came out ahead.
Yeah, and this is really important, Mike, because if you think about the Great Depression, most people were suffering during those years, yet there were some businesses that were successful. And so you just have to know what to do, what to pay attention to, and a lot of times the clients aren't looking at the right variables. They don't know what to do. They don't know what they don't know. And so that's where I come in.
Right on. So now how else have you helped a leader bring big changes about?
Well, lots of ways I've helped.
I know you've got one story, which is Jeremy.
Let me tell you about Jeremy. Jeremy, actually, he was a key business leader, also in a manufacturing kind of an environment, different kind of manufacturing. And he was the business leader of a high-end niche business for this company. It's a global organization, very large. And they were in the midst of a whole round of mergers and acquisitions. So the company was thinking about how can we, create some synergy and have everybody operating with the same systems and structures in place. So as they were doing this, the executive team made some decisions about how they were going to move business forward, which, if they had been implemented wholeheartedly across the board, would really have destroyed Jeremy's business, because he had a high-end client, very niche, very different, and those same structures, kind of like think about something like a Walmart, was not going to work on the designer, clothing end of the scale. And so I think since the decision had already been made and the company was moving full steam ahead in that way, Jeremy he said, well, this is it. I just need to, start looking elsewhere and get a new job. And I need to help my people land safely so they can move elsewhere. And he happened to be a great leader. He really did care about his people. He wanted them to be successful. And I said to him, well, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's something else you can do besides that. And so we crafted sort of a business plan that he could put together and share with executive leadership about why, at least for his part of the business, there needed to be some different strategies, some different approaches, some different rules. Now, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have even pursued that, because in his mind, the cow's out of the barn already. Why would I go to executive team? They've already made these choices. In reality, he got an appointment, got a hearing with the executive team. He rolled out his ideas, the whole plan. They listened and they said, this makes perfectly good sense. So no, we're not going to implement that in your area. So he was able to save both himself and his team. And the reason why this is important, the company was doing all this stuff to be more profitable. And his area was already very profitable. And so why would you want to, lose that?
Very impressive. So the bottom line is they got some big results, and retention's a big part of what you work on as well when you're working with these teams and the people inside.
Yes, a whole bunch of stuff. Like, for example, attracting the right people, hiring them, and then developing them, which is also part of retaining them as well.
All right. So now where can someone find out more about you, get a copy of your best-selling book, and also find out how they can hire you as a keynote speaker?
Okay, they can go to my website, www.transleadership.com. If they hit /book, they can go to get the book offer as well.
Very nice, very nice. So go ahead, take advantage of Karen's offer here. Get a copy of her book, which again is at transleadership.com/book. And you can find out more about how to work with Karen, also how you can hire her as a keynote speaker to make a huge difference in your business too. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
All right.
Delighted.